Okay, so let's keep reading. Default methods enable you to add new functionality to the interfaces of your libraries and ensure binary compatibility with code written for older version of those interfaces. Here is an example. We have this following interface. This interface have 4 abstract methods, and here is the implementation. Let's copy them into Eclipse. So session 5, new interface. Now we have a class that implements the pre-mentioned interface. Okay. Here the implementation just override all the abstract methods mentioned in the interface: set time, set date, set date and time, and get local date time. In the constructor, it gets the current date and time. So when you try to set a time by passing in hour, minute, and second, it adds your hour, minute, and second to the current date and time in order to update the new date and time. If you pass in date, month, year, it just add your date, month, year to the existing date and time and update it. If you pass all the parameters, just use yours. So this is this method, and we can run it because it have a main method. Run as Java application. Okay, this is it. My client toString. This is a toString, the current date and time, toString, January 21st. Suppose you add a new abstract method. In that case, this implementing class will be broken because this new abstract method needs to be implemented. If you see the complaint, you need to add this unimplemented method. However, you don't have to broken your existing implementers. Instead of have your method as abstract, you can give it a default implementation. If you give the default method a default implementation, then the implementer don't have to be broken. So let's fix the interface. See, here we added default keyword, and we also added the method body. If we save, the implementer is fixed. Here the implementer didn't override this new method. You see, it didn't override that default method, but it didn't broken. Okay, so you specify that a method definition in an interface is a default method with a default keyword at the beginning of the method signature. All methods declaration in an interface including default method are implicitly public. It's no longer abstract. It's public. So let's let's go here. If we say public, this is a default. If you say abstract, okay, this is illegal. It's no longer abstract. You cannot add abstract keyword with default. And this could be a trick question in the OCAJP and OCPJP. Let's come here. With this interface, you do not have to modify the cast simple time client. And in the following example, we have a tester class which calls a new getZoneDataTime method. And it calls the method through the simple time client, which didn't override that method. So when you call the simple datetime client for this getZoneDataTime, it uses a default implementation from the interface. Now let's run this test. Okay, see, invalid time zone, blah blah, using default time zone instead. This one is came from simple client from the time client from the default. Okay, let's add a signature here from time client interface. Let's run it again, just make sure. You see, from time client interface. Again, this could be a question in OCPJP. What is the output of the program? And you should say the output is this from the timeline interface invalid time zone. Blah blah blah. This is the correct answer. And again, you need to understand the data format in order to get this string. And the next section is extending interfaces that contain default methods. When you extend an interface that contains a default method, you have three options. You don't have to mention the default method at all, which let you extend the interface inherit the default methods. That's what we just did in the simple time client. And in the tester, we got a simple client, and we just get the zone date time. Simple client didn't override the getZoneDataTime, so it got a default behavior from the interface. Alternatively, if you have an interface that extends the interface time client as follows. Okay, you can have an interface, another time client which didn't mention the new interface. Let's create a new interface. And we change our simple time client. Instead of implements time client, we implement this another time client. Another time client didn't mention anything about the default method. So when you run the program, you get a default method implementation from the interface. Okay. Or you can have you can have the get zone datetime redeclared. In that case, the implementer have to provide the implementation. So what it says is like this. We create a new interface. Oh, okay. Here we change our simple client to implement abstract zone time client. This time, the simple client have to implement that abstract method. You see, you have to implement it because it is re-declared as abstract. We save it and we run it again. This time we get the datetime. Get zone datetime. Run as the application. Okay, just extend the main null pointer exception. It is thrown in the test simple client in the main. Okay. Blah blah. ToString, because when you're trying to get data time, what it happens is it returns a null. Okay, this is your implementation in the simple time client. You return a null, and I get a null pointer exception. It didn't get from the default implementation from the interface. Or let's try to return something. Let's return zoned datetime. New zoned datetime. New zoned datetime. Is that a new? Let's see how the default implementation does. We can copy it through. Oh, we need this method, which is the data time of. Let's forget about it. I don't want to copy those through. Let's just then leave an hour and throws an hour pointer exception. Okay, where is that? Test symbol and symbol client. Let's return now. And it keeps that arguing an hour pointer exception. And so let's continue. Any class that implements the interface abstract zone time client will have to implement the method get zone datetime, which will return now and get null pointer exception. This method is an abstract method like all other non-default, non-static method in an interface. You can have a third way of extending time client. In this time, you redeclare, you rewrite the default method of the get datetime. So instead of use a method body in the interface, in the parent interface, you use this method body instead. So let's create this interface. Okay, and let's change the simple client. And we don't need to provide the implementation because it already have a default one. But this time, the default implementation is from here instead of from the timed client. Let's say from this one. So we have a signature. And let's run the program. Okay, you see, this time from handle invalid time zone client and use the default. Now let's go to the next section, static methods. In addition to default methods, you can define static methods in interfaces. A static method is a method that is associated with a class in which it is defined rather than with any object. Any instance of the class shares its static methods. I will not read through it, just read it. I give you some time. So okay, so let me add this static method into our existing time client interface. Okay, zone ID, static public zone ID. It's conflict. Okay. In this time, you can call the get zone ID directly from the implementer. Where do we call it? In the toString. How about in the toString? Let's call it zone ID. Get zone ID. And we call it through the interface name. In this case, it's a simple time client. Get zone ID. We can have it have anything. And we just add it to our string plus. Okay, through the interface name, we can call the static method, and the static method didn't break any implementer. And it's considered a non-essential utility class. So even in the time client itself, it is called. It is called here. So it became optional. Now let's run this program. Okay, this time invalid time zone XXX using default time zone instead. Datetime to string. How about we don't use that to string, we just my client to string. First have this to string, then you have that. Date and time to string. Let's add something in between. So that I can tell which is which. Okay. The two strings just print. The first part is the date and time, and the second part is what is returned from the get zone ID. I passed XXX, and the default implement tell me this is the invalid zone. Instead, I will return your default. The default is American New York, so this is what I see from the two string. The first part is date and time. The second part is the default time zone. In between, I saw the warning from the default implement. Okay, which is from the um, where I have it from the time client. Okay, from the time client. You see, it's from here. So far we have covered the static methods. In the next section is integrating default methods to existing libraries. Most of the materials in this part probably won't get tested in OCA JP and OCP JP. So I will skip those materials until later time. So this is the end of this section.